Hello everyone, and welcome back to another episode of the Icing on the Skate podcast. Hello everyone, how are we doing today? It's me again. Hi. So joining me this week, of course, we have that guy that makes golf videos on YouTube every once in a while that take like 4 years to upload, Chris Gadsby, of course. And then we have on the other side of me, to you, it's my right, yeah, that way. We have long-time friend of the channel, Max Artis. Hi Max, how you doing?
I'm doing jerseys now.
One at a time, please. I can't understand you both. Oh, nice. Like it. Good. So Chris,
there's a reason for all of them.
Yeah, good. I like the good stuff there. So Chris, you've got a little black bit above your head, just so you know.
I don't think I can do anything about
that. No, because that's from my end. So enjoy. I mean, it's a podcast, so if you don't want to look, you don't really have to look. So, I mean, you don't want to look at Chris anyway, let's be honest. Fucking hell. Start every week to go on.
He's doing so bad at fantasy, he's resorting to juvenile attempts at put-downs.
I will fight you, son. We're not getting into that yet, buddy boy. Anyway, so let's move on to what we're actually here to talk about. Hello, everyone. Feel free to talk in the chat. We'll say hi. We'll hopefully, if you've got stuff relevant to the topics that we're talking about, we'll pick up on it, and that might add to the conversation. Like always, if you're new to the podcast, as some of you might be, because my subscriber base seems to grow every single day, which is great. We talk about the British Elite League, the British Ice Hockey League, the NHL, and a little bit of everything in between. We find interesting stories from around the hockey world and have a chat about stuff. And
talk about as much as we can in an hour and a half.
Yeah, and I kind of pride myself on taking the piss out of my guests, so... sorry, Max. Right, anyway. Well, I do it to Chris.
There's a reason it's been so long since he was last here. He's only just recovered from the last time.
If anyone was wondering, I'm wearing my Zurich Lions hoodie today. You don't care, but there you go. Anyway, Chris, do you want to take us through what's happened this week in the Elite League, please?
Yes, okay, so we're starting on Wednesday. Manchester Storm 3, Guildford Flames 2. Move through to Friday. Dundee Stars 4, Nottingham Panthers 3. Saturday, Guildford 3, 5-4. That was after overtime. Milton Keynes Lightning 1, Sheffield Steelers 4, Cardiff Devils 4, Belfast Giants 2, Coventry Blaze 2, Manchester Storm 6, and Glasgow Clan 4, Nottingham Panthers 1. And on Sunday, Sheffield Steelers 2, Milton Keynes Lightning 1, Cardiff Devils 5, Belfast 2. We've got Dundee 2, Guildford Flames 1. That was after overtime. The Manchester Storm 3, the Coventry Blaze 4. That was also after overtime. And the Five Flyers 2, the Nottingham Panthers 3 after penalty shots.
Hey. So the Panthers actually won a game for once. That's nice.
Yeah.
I've forgotten what that feeling was of winning a game.
I know.
It's great.
The thing is, it's the first time in a few weeks that we haven't gone 1 point weekend.
Yeah, it's been like 3 weeks since we didn't have just a 1 point in a weekend. Oh, that's sad, isn't it? That's really sad. Is this how the Edinburgh Capitals felt every week?
No, they lost.
I think
they had 0 point
used to it by the time that we got to this.
Yeah, very true. So if you're curious about the standings so far this week, I've got them up. Don't worry, I'm a little bit prepared today. We have at the top of the standings, we have the Cardiff Devils with 62 points. Of course, they had their big 2-game weekend against the Belfast Giants and took both games. So there's a 9-point gap between the Cardiff Devils in first and the Belfast Giants in second with 53 points. The Nottingham Panthers have 51 points for third place. However, they've played like 5 or 6 more games than every other team near them. The Five Flyers have 45 points for fourth place. The Glasgow Clan are fifth place with 42. Sixth are the Dundee Stars with 41. Guildford and Manchester both have 40, and they take the 7th and 8th spots. The Sheffield Steelers have 39 points for the 9th spot. The Coventry Blaze also have 39 points for the 10th spot. And the Milton Keynes Lightning, way down in the bottom with 26 points, take the 11th spot in the league. So, Max, we'll go with you first, because it's been a while since you've been here. Anything you want to talk about with the standings? Anything that you thought would make sense? Anything that's kind of like surprised you this week? where teams are sitting in the standings at the moment, just feel free, fire off.
Well, something that I'm going to try to do for this podcast, try to do a bit of homework, and something that the NHL does is like the last third of the season or last half of the season, they kind of run down the top teams versus the bottom teams and who has the better run of games, so to speak, who has the even fixtures and stuff. And since I've done that, Sheffield have dropped out of the top half of the table. Guildford have gone on an absolute tear and then lost it again. Nottingham are so far ahead of games it doesn't really matter. And Belfast and Cardiff.
Yeah.
So everything's just kind of flipped. So all of my hard work has quite literally gone down the pan.
This is why you never do homework for these things.
Nah,
this is why you turn up and wing it.
I've done that before with commentaries. I can remember there was a football match where the Jamaican women's national team came across, and I spent a whole day. I took a day off work. I took a day off work. Spent the whole day looking at the histories of each player in the team, and then none of them played.
Yeah.
They played like a second team, and none of them played.
So for those of you watching, if you're wondering why I never really do any research for any of my live streams whatsoever, this is exactly why.
Yeah. Again, just to reckon, I did one commentary once for the varsity game, the University versus Uni Trent versus Uni Alf. Did loads of stats and stuff. Completely pointless because throughout the year they play about 10 games, if that. They all play with each other, not against each other. They're not on separate teams. They're all kind of mixed into abilities rather than university versus university. So they're all teammates and stuff. So yeah, it was. I've now learned the hard way twice.
So basically, the advice that we're giving you on this week's Icing on the Skate podcast is don't do any homework.
You'll turn out fine. You'll get on YouTube and
you'll get on YouTube. You'll make like 3 pence for every video.
Yeah, you might just have to suffer a few detentions if you don't.
Pretty much. We're giving sound advice to our viewers here, aren't we? We said last week, Chris, that the Cardiff Devils and the Belfast Giants games this past weekend, of course, 4 points up for grabs for either team, or a potential 4 points up for grabs. I very much said last week, and I think you very much agreed with it, that if the Cardiff Devils took both games, then we think they're going to run away with it. If the Belfast Giants managed to take one of the games or both of the games, then it would still be very much a 2-horse race. Now, the Cardiff Devils have played one more game than the Belfast Giants, and they're 9 points ahead. They're on a 9-game winning streak. They're 29-5-4 in their record so far this season. Do you think that Cardiff are now in the position where they can run away with it, or do you think Belfast still have a chance?
Well, it's all in Cardiff's hands, isn't it? It depends. I mean, Belfast need to work to try and get to within touching distance again. They do have that double header in Belfast on the 22nd and the 23rd of February.
Yes, I remember you mentioning, yeah.
Now, if Cardiff can take either, tie the weekend or take both, both wins from there, then it's theirs. Let's have a look at the fixtures they've got coming up. So they've got Sheffield away on Wednesday night.
Okay.
Then they've got Nottingham, then Fife, then Manchester. They've got a 4-game road trip now over the next few weeks.
That's Belfast, right?
No, that's Cardiff.
Oh, it's Cardiff.
They're
Sorry.
On a 4-game, yeah. Belfast have. Bear with me a moment. Belfast have a double header against Fife this weekend. Then they take the trip to Milton Keynes before the Challenge Cup playoff semi-final first leg against Glasgow.
Right.
So, and then after that, they're on a 4-game homestand. So you would think it's probably more slightly towards Belfast to close the gap, because I think Cardiff have the potential tougher fixtures there.
However, it is, like you just said a minute ago, it's very much theirs to lose. They're against the Steelers.
They just have to control what they're doing.
Exactly. Like you mentioned, they're against the Steelers, who are out of the playoffs at the moment. They're against the Panthers, that have been absolutely awful of late. They're against the Manchester Storm, who are holding onto a playoff spot by the skin of their teeth. And who else did you say? Fife, who have struggled of late. They had a good start to the season, but they've kind of struggled of late as like a 500 team. So
they're still a strong team.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
Oh yeah, they are. Yeah.
But then again, we're talking about Cardiff here. So
yeah, but then
like,
right ahead of that double header with Belfast, Cardiff have got a home and away weekend with Milton Keynes, where you think they're going to pick 4 points up there.
I mean, Cardiff have depth coming out the arsehole, so I think they've got it. Like, I honestly think, Belfast, like, if the fixtures carried on going, like, if they managed to go on like a 5-6 game winning streak, then yeah, they might be still within it by the time the next games roll around between those two sides. But I think with 9 points clear, and they've only played one more game, like, I think we're getting to the point. Cardiff are in top form at the moment. They've, like, all their players are playing perfectly, so I think it's unattainable. But then again, like we said before on many of these podcasts, sports are a wonderful thing. You can never quite know what's going to happen from one week to the next, especially in the Elite League with how competitive it's been this last season. So Belfast could still very well be in with a chance, but I think it's Cardiff's now, which would be an incredible feat, like you mentioned, with the 3 straight regular season victories or 3 straight championships.
I mean, put it this way, purely on paper, this is obviously because it doesn't work like this in real life.
Of course.
So Cardiff have got 22 games left of the season. They have 3 against Milton Keynes, who are bottom, 3 against the Coventry Blaze, who are second from bottom, and 4 against the Sheffield Steelers, who are third from bottom.
Right. Yeah. So that's what? 6, 12... That's like 20 points up for grabs.
That's 10 of their last 22 games are against teams at the moment in the bottom 3.
Yeah, and I mean, it's not as if they've been struggling with teams around them. Like they beat the second best team in the league. If you're going based specifically on the standings, like they beat them twice.
They've still got another 2 to play against Manchester. So more than half their games remaining are against the teams in the bottom third of the table.
Yeah, so
it's theirs to lose, 100%.
It really is theirs to lose, absolutely. I mean, given how far they are ahead in the standings, it's definitely theirs to lose.
Yeah.
Okay, so that's the standings so far for the Elite League this far into the season. We're about 37, 38, 40 sort of games into the season.
Yeah, coming up to the 2/3 point.
Exactly. So there's still... Playoff spots are still very much up for grabs. However, the actual regular season champions, I think, is locked down, in my opinion. So that's the standings. Let's move on to the Elite Ice Hockey League news. And there's been some very, very, very big news this week. The biggest news we'll get onto in a moment. I think we'll rattle off... I've done them in like the order in which they happened, but I think we'll go through all of them.
We need to rattle for a few, because some of them are...
Let's leave the big one till the end. So, the Sheffield Steelers have been cleaning up their shop recently. This was announced on January 15th, so I think it was last Wednesday. The Sheffield Steelers confirmed that they have released 3 players from their roster. Those 3 players being goalie Matt Climmy, forwards Justin Buzio, and Stéphane Delarovere. They've all been released by the club. Both Buzio and Delarovere had been with the Steelers since the start of the season when Paul Thompson scouted them, whilst Climmy joined the team shortly after the arrival of the new head coach Tom Barrasso at the end of October. And a team statement said, "We would like to go on record and thank all 3 players for their service to the Steelers and wish them well in their future ventures. We're in the process of recruiting new personnel, one of which we'll get onto in a moment, and we are hopeful of some positive news shortly with at least 1 new player in our lineup." Yeah, blah, blah, against Milton Keynes Lightning. Yeah, we get that. So, what I will say is, Max, you wanted to say something about Matt Climmy, correct?
Yeah.
Go for it.
So... from this is from memory, so if I'm wrong, someone please shout at me and tell me I'm wrong.
You're wrong.
I think I've got it right. So just wait. So Tomo throws Jackson Whistle under the bus and says he's not good enough. Then he subsequently leaves. Tom Barrasso comes in, brings in potentially his goalie, which sounds like it. If not, then Climate is the guy that Tomo wanted to bring in. So he was obviously on his way in. In recent time, Tom Barrasso, from what I hear, is throwing Climate under the bus and saying that he's not good enough. So there's no kind of stability in their goalie situation. So it's not really surprised that he's gone. I just think it's just the way about it that they've got, the way around it that they've gone is awful, because they've gone, right, you're not good enough. We're getting a new goalie in. He's not good enough. Like, we're going to have to rely on Jackson Whistle now unless they get someone else in. I think they've had a revolving door of 4 goalies this year.
So the interesting thing that you've said there, you make some good points in the sense that both of the head coaches have kind of thrown their goaltenders under the bus. One thing I would mention is, he's not wrong. Like, is Tom, like, I get what you're saying. So let me just say, he shouldn't be throwing Matt Climmy under the bus. I completely agree, because he's the one that fucking scouted him and put him on the team. Like, he's the one that's gone, I want this guy on my roster. I think he's going to be good. He turns out not to be...
Do you want his stats while we're talking about him?
Yeah, go for it. Go. Check out the stats.
The Steelers, so he played 11 games for the Steelers in the league.
Did he play 11 games? That many? Wow.
In the league, 3.28 goals against average, save percentage of .896. In the Challenge Cup, he only played 2 games.
Okay.
Goals against average 4.58, save percentage of .852.
So
now, interestingly, from my point of view, just
before
he went to the Steelers this season, he played for HC Innsbruck in the EBEL over in Latvia.
Oh, I love the EBEL. Love it.
Yeah.
He only played 3 games for them.
Okay.
Goals against average 6.17.
Oh.
With a save percentage of .771.
I think this is a pure example of Tom Brasso going, we need a new goaltender, who's available? Like, it's not like we're going to scout someone and try and get them here. It's going to be like, who is actually like willing to come and play for our team?
Yeah, I don't think he really trusts in Jackson Whistle, which I don't exactly blame him. Like, he played, in fairness to Whistle, he played exceptionally well in Belfast, but I think he had a much stronger team in front of him. Hence why they're now at fighting for the top of the table and still in competition for it.
Yeah,
but he's not been settled at all, because he only joined HC Innsbruck in April at the end of last season. He then was released from them end of September, so he was only there for 5 months, and 4 of those was the off season.
When you've got a fucking goals against average of 6, you're not going to stay around for very long, are you?
Yeah, but we could say the same thing about potentially the Coventry's new goal. It came in. There was
you could, yeah.
A
6-7 game, like. If that's the way that the game goes, that's the way that the game goes.
Oh, absolutely. It's when it's like 7-1. That's when there's the problems. But yeah, like you mentioned, so the Sheffield Steelers have clearly had some problems with their goaltending position at the moment. They have since the beginning of the season. I mean, Tom Brasso going, both our goaltenders, or Climmy's not been good, or he's not played as well as we've wanted him to. Like, to be fair, whilst he did scout him, he makes a good point. Neither of their goaltenders have been good enough. They've been good at points, like you said. Jackson Whistle has had good games this season. The problem with the Steelers is, when the goalie's playing well, the defence sucks. When the defence is playing well, the goaltending sucks. Like, there's rarely any time that they've both been on the same page, which has led to them being 10th place in the standings.
Yeah.
And that goes way back to Tomo as well, I would argue. Like,
134 goals conceded in 39 games. So they're over 3 goals a game conceded.
Exactly. Well, they're over 4, aren't they? Over 4 goals conceded. No?
No, over 3. It's 3.4, something like that.
Okay, all right. Quick math. I'm not surprised that they made a change at the goaltending position. They weren't going to get rid of Jackson Whistle, because Jackson Whistle's one of those players that I think now, I don't want to be unfair to Jackson Whistle, but I think I make a fair point here, and feel free to correct me if I'm wrong. I think the fact that he was playing behind Belfast made him look slightly better than he actually is.
Incredibly better, yes.
Yes, so the fact that he's basically been thrown to the wolves here in Sheffield, like they've gone, he's our new starting goaltender. He's going to pick up where Musnikov has left off when he left at the end of last season. Like, we're going to have a solid goaltender. That's going to be fine. We can worry about the other positions. He's not had the best kind of defense in front of him. That's caused him to basically be exposed for many of the games that he's played, which has led to, of course, Tomo, when he was there, going, yeah, he's not played well enough. Well, I'm not happy with him. And then when Climmy comes in, going, oh, yeah, and then when Barasso's like, oh, Climmy's not playing well, we'll have to put Jackson Whistle in as like a compensation goalie. It was like a sympathy start, you know? So, yeah, the goaltending in Sheffield has sucked this year so far. Mostly. Like I just said, there have been times where they've had good goaltending. It's just not been enough, hence why they're 10th place in the standings. And I think before we move on, just mentioning the other 2 players on the roster that got removed, Buzio and De La Rovere. they scored goals and they produced, but not enough. Like, they were brought in to be top point scorers for the team. Chris, could you get the stats for either of them? I just want to make sure we're like completely fair with those
for
two
Buzio
guys.
and Della Rovere?
Yeah, please.
Yep.
And just while you find that, like in the games that I've been to where where Nottingham have played Sheffield, they're two names that I wouldn't have been able to say that they were playing for them. To be honest, you said, "Oh, who's Della Rovere and who's he play for?" I go, I don't know.
I had no idea, to be honest.
Like, and Buzio, I probably heard his name once or twice, and that's about it. They're not really the impact players they wanted.
Yeah, the problem is though, Sheffield always seem to play their best hockey against Nottingham. So
that is true.
Like, the only time that you can say that they've been like a legitimate team so far this season is when they've played Nottingham. So do you have the stats there? Yeah, go for it.
Yeah, I've got Buzio's stats first. So Steelers in total, this is league and cup, 39 games, 8 plus 18 for 26.
Okay, so that's not too bad. Like, he was producing, but like I think most of those points have come since Barasso's been in. That would be interesting to know. I'm not expecting you to find that right now, but and what about Buzio?
You mean Della Rovere?
Yeah, you know what I mean.
Yeah. Okay, for the Steelers, he has 42, 7 plus 9 for 16.
Okay, so I can definitely understand why Buzio's gone.
Well, interestingly, he's gone to Dresdner Eislowen in the DEL 2. Two games played, 3 goals, 1 assist, 4 points.
Wow, it's not doing too bad then. Good start.
No.
So, so those are the Sheffield Steelers players gone. Just to sort of wrap up on the players, the forwards specifically, we've talked a lot about the goaltending, obviously. They're two guys that I think, especially Tomo when he picked them up and Barrasso why he kept them so long, they were players that were supposed to step up and produce and be top point scorers, especially with some of the players that left the Steelers at the end of last season. They were kind of brought in to fill those holes. However, they've Buzio more than Della Rovere has I think that's right, isn't it? Whose stats did you mention first? They were Buzio's, right?
Buzio's was first, yeah.
Yeah, so Buzio more than Della Rovere stepped up to that plate, but not enough. So, yeah. So some changes there with the Sheffield Steelers organisation. So we mentioned the fact that those players are gone and they had signed or were looking to sign somebody else. Let's talk about that new signing now, shall we? So the Sheffield Steelers announced on the 17th of January that they had added to their roster forward Tom Zanoski. Now, the 34-year-old Tom Zanoski arrives from our favourite club here from the EBEL on the Icing on the Skate podcast, Medvesac Zagreb, with him spent the last 4 seasons in both their KHL and EBEL rosters. So since arriving in Europe in the early part of 2011, he has primarily played in EBEL, Icing for Zagreb, the KAC, Linz, Bolzano, and La Ljubljana. Jesus Christ, he's played at a lot of teams. He amassed 100 points in 234 games at that level, whilst also playing 39 games in the KHL. So, hang on a minute. So this is John Armstrong talking. It's been a difficult time for us all in Zagreb, so it'll be nice to come and join the Steelers, focusing on nothing but hockey. So that's what Zanoski said. He's joining former Zagreb teammate and current Sheffield Steeler, of course, John Armstrong. He and many others told me great things about the club and the city, and he joined the team this weekend for their games against the Milton Keynes Lightning. Do you have any stats on that, Chris?
Not yet, because I'm busy laughing at Zagreb, but I can find them. Well,
so for those
you know how before Christmas we had that massive laugh about how many players they got rid of in such a short space of time and all the rest of it?
Now filtering through to us.
Yeah.
So,
would you like to know how many players have left since the start of January? Bearing in mind we're 21 days in, so in the first 3 weeks.
Before we do, I just want to mention to the people viewing that might not have seen many of the streams recently, there's a team in the EBEL, which is a league in Austria, I want to say?
Yes.
Austria. Medvesac Zagreb, which has come up a lot in the British ice hockey news recently in terms of changing players, because they seem to have completely gutted their roster since December.
It was they lost 14 in one day or something.
They lost 14 players in the space of a couple of days, and like 3 or 4, maybe 5 of them, maybe half a dozen of them came to the Elite League, and in the weeks following we've had like the extra 1 or 2 coming over. So They're kind of, especially for the Sheffield Steelers, they're like the Sheffield Steelers, like, minor league affiliate. Where it's like they get called up to play for the Steelers eventually. So we love Medvesac Zagreb here. They're my favourite team to talk about on the podcast.
Yeah.
Because they're just an absolute dumpster fire, and I love it. So how many players? So there were 14 players that left.
It was something like 14. Yeah,
Okay.
It was something ridiculous like that.
So
this is since New Year's Day.
So since New Year's Day to January 21st, which we're on today, I'm gonna
Okay,
say.
the last one was on the 18th. So in the
So in
space
the
of
first 18 days.
yeah.
Max, you have a guess.
17.
17. I'm gonna go. I'm not sure if that's. I'm not sure to go lower or higher now.
Well, just say lower or higher than 17.
I'm gonna go lower, and I'm gonna say 13.
You're both a bit too high. It is only 7.
Okay, all right. Okay.
But 5 of them left within 48 hours of each other,
Oh Jesus
Okay.
Christ!
including the Tom Zanowski to Sheffield. So
Medvesac Zagreb. Like, what's going on? Are you being run by
surprised
the
they've got a
mafia or
roster.
something?
I'm pretty sure the coach driver is still available to play for them.
Well, he might leave it to join the Sheffield Steelers after like 2 games. He might
Might
put
get
up a
back.
hat trick and be like, "We need him."
Zanowski's production for Zagreb was 9 plus 6 for 15 from 37 games, and he hasn't played for Sheffield yet.
Okay, but I thought he played this weekend.
That's not been updated. He played at the weekend. He played during Milton Keynes.
Yeah, I think he played
Okay,
for the.
I can check that
back-to-back.
because he has not played according to Elite Prospects, but I'll double check that for the weekend.
Okay.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure he has. Because I was checking through Sheffield's news feed, and I'm pretty sure he played against the Milton Keynes
Yeah,
Lightning.
the article said that he was suiting up for them this weekend.
Did he? Okay, I'll have a look see if he
Yeah.
did anything.
Okay. Max, what do you think about Zanowski joining the Steelers? What do you think about Medvesac Zagreb once again giving us more players?
Well, like I kind of alluded to, I think me, you, and Chris should go to Zagreb, if I can say it properly. And
Might get a game.
Well, not just that. I think we should take over. That's it. That's a start.
He did score. He scored the opening goal for Sheffield on Saturday night.
Oh, that's nice. That's a good question. How much do you reckon Medvesac Zagreb is going for like ownership of the team?
I don't know.
On your YouTube money, you can.
Yeah, do you reckon my ad revenue would pay for it?
Yeah.
I wouldn't have enough to sign any
man
players.
is the GM.
Yeah. Could you imagine me as the general manager
GM
of
old man.
Medvesac Zagreb?
Oh no! You know what? Are they?
You have to do a playthrough on NHL.
That would be
I
a
was
great
about to
fucking
say,
series
on
on the channel, wouldn't it?
On I was going to say they're in the Continental Cup. Go on them, do a GM mode. Substitute them into the NHL and do a Zagreb GM mode.
Yes.
Series.
That would be fantastic. If I could just, I would do like a vlogging series of me just being
Do you
the general
guys want to
manager
see
of
that?
Medvesac
Do you guys want to
Zagreb.
see that?
Yes.
Yeah, check. Get that going.
Do you reckon we could crowdfund it? Like GoFundMe?
Oh, if teams have done it in our lower leagues, we can definitely get it for Zagreb.
Yeah, crowdfund me to become the general manager of Medvesac Zagreb. Get on that, YouTube. Get on it.
And me and Chris as
Who was-
coaches. I love that.
Who was
Yes.
it? Didn't they do that Kickstarter to try and pay the fine for?
Yeah.
Oh, for Chubanez.
Yes,
Yeah.
old man
Yeah.
Rush for Zagreb GM.
I unfortunately the guy very well. Unfortunately.
So,
Getting back to the task in hand.
Yeah, we're going to be here till like 10.
moving on to
Zanowski.
non-Zagreb related stuff.
Yeah, so he's played ECHL a fair few games, AHL a handful of games. Don't think he's ever made it into the show. He's Croatian-born, Canadian raised, which is quite interesting. He looks like he's going to be a very tough physical player. He's plenty of his photos and highlight pictures are of him getting people by the scruff of the neck and knocking 10 bells of anything out of them.
Oh, the Elite League love those type of players, don't they?
So
Sorry, I'm just looking. Sorry, this is completely random. I was just looking because I'm going back to Zagreb very briefly. They're obviously having the turnaround. Would you like to know where they are in the EBEL?
First
does it even
place.
exist?
They're stone dead last.
What, really? What a surprise! Does
9
that have anything
points.
to do with the fact that they have a revolving door of players? Like, one of them turns up for one game, gets his paycheck, leaves to go to the Elite League.
Right?
Maybe he doesn't
They're in 12th out of 12. They're 9 points off Villach, who are in 11th.
Okay.
But Villach are 22 points off Innsbruck in 10th.
Oh. 31 points off 10th place.
They must do 3 points for a win, because Vienna are top and they've only played 40 games, yet they've got 81 points.
Vienna Capitals are a good team. They're a good team. Who is it? Nate Schmidt went to go and train with them during his suspension. Fun fact.
Oh my God, I've never seen so many losses in a row. 1, 2, right? This is like the Lions, ready? Right? 11-0, 13-0, 10-2, 12-0. 9-0.
Are you sure you're not reading out the fixtures of the Lions there, Chris?
No, because the Lions have a goalie in that.
1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, 20 game losing streak.
Wow.
Still Edinburgh Capitals.
Yep.
Right,
anyway,
right.
No more on Memphis Zagreb until the end of the podcast.
Do a whole podcast.
Or you're grounded. Right, anyway, moving on. I'm moving on to a completely different topic because otherwise we're going to go down that rabbit hole again. We mentioned last week the Team Great Britain under-20s playing their games in Tallinn for the Division 2 Group A World Championships, which was very interesting. So we found some news. The tournament ended last week, and it's kind of good news, but a tad bad as well. The Great British Under-20s won the bronze medal at the tournament. Hosts Estonia, the Under-20 Estonian team managed to take the gold medal. They beat the Romanian Under-20s 9-1 on the final day. Romania came fourth. Lithuania took the silver medal after beating Korea, who were relegated. So it goes Estonia in first place, Lithuania second, Great Britain third, Spain fourth, and Romania fourth, Spain fifth, and Korea sixth. They got destroyed on several occasions. So Great Britain won the bronze medal, so they stay in Division 2 Group A. Of course, they promoted there at the end of last season, with the last tournament last year. Liam Kirk, we will mention later on, of course, but he managed to win the award for forward of the tournament. We'll get into the stats in a little bit more detail later on in the podcast. But yes, that's really awesome. Do you guys want to mention anything about that? Did you get the chance to watch any of the games? Any thoughts you have? Go for it.
Go on, Chris.
Well, I was at work for most of them, and of course, being in the
love your commitment, Chris. Well done.
Well, being in the UK, obviously you couldn't watch it the live stream because Free Sports were showing it, so you couldn't have that. It was that TV right thing. But I think they played well. Obviously, the career game is probably a bit of an anomaly, and they did well to fight back, obviously, against Lithuania. They've done really well in the stats chart. I mean, they hold 3 of the top 4 points leaders over the course of the tournament. And the key thing from a Great Britain point of view is that the vast majority of the players are eligible next year as well. Whereas, like the Korean team, who obviously Great Britain lost out to last year, have done terribly this year because they pretty much changed everything and got relegated.
Yeah, that sucks. So yeah, anything you want to add, Max?
No, just it's quite nice to see that.
Goodbye, Chris.
Chris has gone to go sort his dishwasher out.
Or he's probably been robbed or something. I don't know.
So it's nice to see that the Peter repeats let Liam Kirk go over. I'm pretty sure that would be in his contract somewhere to say, look, it's my country. I'm going to go play for him. It'd be interesting to see if that does anything for his stats in the coming week. To see if that kind of gives him a bit of a boost, because he did get top player, didn't he? Like most points forward.
Yeah, he got forward of the tournament.
Yeah,
and
so
I believe he led in points as well. So
he did.
Yeah.
Hi again, Chris. You're back.
Yeah, dishwasher's gone.
Getting robbed? No. Okay.
5. No, it was the dishwasher. Liam Kirk 5 + 9 for 14 points.
Wow.
From 5 games, so almost 3 points a game.
That's incredibly impressive.
I don't know how many was actually scored. How many points he put up during the career game? Because that's kind of
that was 1 + 4 against Korea.
5 points.
Oh, so not that much then. Okay.
Not that much. I'd love to have a 5-point game any day of the week. You know.
I had a 4-point game at the weekend. Thank you very much, boys.
I can remember. I can remember last season.
Was it 5?
Yeah,
I can remember last season because Mark Levers played for the Lions last season, and we played D-side and won. I think it was 12-2. And I showed him the stats.
Win they've ever had.
And I showed him I showed him the stats afterwards. I was like, "Yeah, Mark, you were like 3+4 for 7 points that game." He goes, "Yeah, it's not bad, really, is it?" So you just got a 7-point game.
Love Levers.
He is really nice.
So, yeah, that's about the Great Britain under-20s winning the bronze medal at Tallinn, which is awesome. So we had the under-20s women winning bronze. They won bronze, didn't they? Yeah.
18.
Yeah, sorry, under-18s winning bronze and the GB under-20s winning bronze. That's awesome. Now, the last bit of Elite League news before we get on to the big topic of news, and then we've got a little bit of a discussion topic if we want to go into it. The playoff finals weekend details have been released. So on January 17th, the Elite League announced that they've confirmed details regarding tickets for the playoff weekend, which for those of you who watch from other countries, what they do with the playoffs here is they do... So they basically have one arena, which is the Ice Arena in Nottingham, one of the biggest arenas in the league. Essentially, what they do is they get all the teams, like is it the 4 teams? There's 4 semi-finalists, isn't there?
Yes.
Yeah. So they play the semi-final games and they play the third place game and the finals. So they're each one game wins, right? Because it's the rounds of 4 which are aggregate. Yeah. So essentially what they do is they open it up to... They have different blocks of seating for different sets of fans. They prioritise the teams closer because they're the ones more likely to buy tickets. But they basically... I've never been, but from what Max has said, and I'm sure he'll be able to correct me if I'm wrong, it's basically just this big event of like Elite League fans from all over the country just coming to celebrate a great event and the final... But basically the final weekend of the season, really, isn't it?
Yeah.
Pretty much.
Yeah, I love playoffs. Playoffs is somewhat of a holy grail. I've pretty much been to every single one. I think I've missed one weekend where I was away. But yeah, it's a festival of hockey. There's 4 teams. Yeah, every single team is represented by their fans, their mascots, and sometimes their players. There's no hardship. There's nothing. It's just the perfect atmosphere. Even if you can't get tickets to the game, I would say if you can get anybody can get down, be in the pubs, be around the arena. Like there's always stuff going off. There's always people milling around, talking hockey, talking about everything under the sun. Like there's people in fancy dress. There's copious amounts of drinking. Obviously, it's great fun. It's possibly the best weekend in ice hockey, if I'm honest with you.
It's definitely something that I want to get down to at some point. I'm considering it definitely
this year's year to do it. Let's be honest.
So for those of you who don't know, the finals weekend takes place over the 13th and the 14th of April this year at the Motorpoint Arena in Nottingham. So the ticket prices have been announced. So it's about so for the full weekend, it's about, if you book your tickets before the 3rd of March, it's £84 per person, £64 for concession, and a family ticket of 2 adults and 2 concessions is £270. And the standard price is it's £97 for the full weekend, £72 for concession, and £310 for that family ticket. And the director's seats are £65 Saturday or Sunday. For those of you who don't know, for the block allocations, most of them, of course, have gone to Nottingham. They have 5 blocks. Sheffield and Cardiff have 2 blocks, and then the rest of the teams have 1 block. Tickets go on sale from Monday the 21st of January, so today, until Sunday the 3rd of February for season ticket holders for the Nottingham Panthers. Then the 28th of January to the 3rd of February, it goes on for Sheffield Steelers ticket holders. And then from the 4th of February, it goes on sale for everybody. So if you're wanting to get the chance to get down and watch some Elite League playoff action in April, then go to, if you're not a ticket holder, wait till the 4th of February. And like Max said, it's a great time. It's a great event. It's definitely something I want to go to at some point. I'd love to be able to have a chat with some hockey fans from around the league just to see what they think about the league and what they think about hockey in general. It's always nice when you meet hockey fans. There's not many of them in the UK, so when you meet another one, it is really nice to actually be able to have a conversation about that sort of stuff. So, especially where I am, there's like none of them. I'm literally the only one. I sit there by myself. So
And then some of them you just can't get rid of once you've started talking to him.
exactly, yeah. It's just like, and he's just like, oh, I'll make your thumbnails for you. So
Knew that was coming.
Yeah, well, I appreciate it. It means I don't have to do any work for like 5 minutes. So that's the news about the playoff weekends. Of course, if you want to know all the details about it, like they have Saturday or Sunday, like 1-day tickets available. Check out the website. I'm not going through all of it. What am I, your mum? Right, let's go to the final important piece of news for Nottingham Panthers, and very big news within the league itself, I think, is a fair statement. So, on the 16th of January 2019, at midday, this article was posted. The Nottingham Panthers have just announced that Rick Chernomaz has been relieved of his duties as head coach of the team. Rick Strachan has been appointed head coach for the remainder of the season and took charge of training that morning. Guy Lepine will take on assistant coach duties and will join Rick on the bench that weekend while he recovers from his injury. And Kevin Henderson will take on the role as team captain, even though he's been injured for ages, hasn't really played very much. Neil Black, the chairman of the Nottingham Panthers, said the following. Rich recruited a great roster of talent, and we still think we can make a good run at the end of the season and remain in contention for all 3 titles.
All 3? That's a bit...
You are ridiculous. We believe this move...
2 of them okay, but...
Guys, let me finish the quote and then we'll chat, all right? We believe this move gives us the best chance of success and look forward to giving Rick Strachan all the support he needs to take us over the finish line. We thank Rich for his efforts and wish him all the best in his future. Which, I would just like to point out, I don't think I'm wrong in saying all 3 of us do wish the best for Rick Chernomaz. I don't think... I certainly didn't really have a problem with him. I think there were certainly problems in the way he drew up the game plan for the team or how he utilised the players, but he seems like an alright guy. I mean, he likes to break sticks every once in a while and try and throw them at the refs, but that's funny. So, best of luck to Rick Chernomaz in whatever he does following. So, who would like to rant first?
Mine's not a rant, so is yours a rant, Max, or not?
I'll let Chris go because it might fuel my fire.
Okay, go.
Okay,
go. And then I'll pitch in, and then we'll let Max finish off. Good.
Yeah.
For what kind of my 2 pence is worth, I think that something must have happened behind the scenes, because as Max will know as well as I do, probably slightly more than you, odd man. Panthers have had these sorts of slumps mid-season before, and the coach has stayed, be it Nielsen or whoever, and we're still okay. Yes, the league has probably gone. Let's be honest. Let's be frank with that. But
it's definitely
we're still in the semi-finals of the Challenge Cup, and of course playoffs. We're notoriously good at those 1-game shootouts. So it seems a little bit odd that they don't stick with him. I think that having that. I mean, I've seen quite a few people that say the recruitment wasn't there for this league. Because this league is now becoming much quicker, and the hands are more important than having the big, strong checking guys that were so
that at all, but okay.
That were so valuable to the league before. In terms of a Panthers point of view, Rick Strachan, of course, knows that another coach will come in over summer. He could do anything, and it won't be any repercussions on him. So I think that I've seen some people that have called for this season to just be, let's just get this season finished, and we'll try again next year. But like I said, we're in the semi-finals of the Challenge Cup. We're still in a top seed playoff spot. That needs to be the aim now, because the top 2 have gone. So getting a top seed playoff spot is going to be the important factor for the Panthers for the remainder of this season. And I mean, as we discussed when the news broke on Wednesday, I was a little bit surprised, because I've known slumps like this before, and they've stuck with the coach. And to go through a coach so quickly, I think I've never known the fans be so quick to get up and leave, boo, be critical, and all the rest of it. But, I mean, it's been obviously a few years since Panthers have been in this position. I think that maybe that's to do with obviously times being harder and then wanting more value for their season ticket and their money, because the ticket prices, of course, have gone up not much, but steadily over the last few years as well. And I think the fans have played a big part in it because they're getting increasingly frustrated. And yeah, it came as a shock, but I can see why they've done it. But with a new one not coming in until the summer, I'm not really seeing what the benefit to it is.
Yeah, so I've just found a way to get I just realised I could just crop your thing in a certain way to get rid of the black bit. So you're all right. There you go.
Only 50 minutes in, we've realised.
Yeah, I mean, it's a podcast. Who actually watches it? So here's my 2 cents, 2 pence, whatever you want to call it, wherever you are in the world. I mean, the exchange rate varies, of course. So I agree with pretty much everything you said there. The one thing I would say is I think they've just got to go for playoffs. Like, if they win the playoffs, I think there will be some semblance of, okay, it was an awful season, it didn't end the way it was supposed to, but at least we got something. I'm ruling out the Challenge Cup completely. The reason I say this, one, because you know that I think it's a pretty pointless trophy anyway. I mean, that's just me personally. And secondly, I don't think, if they, okay, this is a rhetorical question, but I want you two to think about it. If the Nottingham Panthers won the Challenge Cup, would you consider this season a success? Like, if they didn't win the playoffs, and they're not going to win the regular season, if they fired their coach and go on to win the Challenge Cup, will any Panthers fan be thinking, well, that season was successful, well done, lads, we won the Challenge Cup? Like, no, you're not going to. Like,
I don't think we'd say it was a successful season, but it wouldn't be a bad season, so to speak.
I mean, yeah, but what's the difference?
A slight redemption.
What's the difference
Yeah.
between winning the Challenge Cup and not winning anything? Like
Well, it depends. I wouldn't mind it if we got to the final of the playoffs as well. If we don't make finals weekend, which we haven't done before, was it a couple of years ago, Max? We didn't make finals weekend. That was really bad.
Yeah,
that was really bad.
So I agree. Like, I think they need to focus on the playoffs. Like, they need to make it to the finals weekend. If they win it, that would be great. Do I think they're going to? I don't know. I'm not really going to pass judgment on that until all of the teams in the playoffs have been decided. I mean, my gut's pretty much saying no, because they're not the strongest team by far at the moment in the league. Or on paper they are, but they're not playing as much of a unit as possible. So, sort of going on from what you were saying towards the end of what you were talking about, Chris, I know why they got rid of the coach. One, because I think they knew the fans weren't happy with him. Whether that's actually gone into the actual final decision, I don't know. They never really listened to the fans on anything else, so why would they start now? I think this is an example of them going, okay, the coach is out. Rick Strachan, you're in. I don't think we can say that like anything's going to change exponentially now that Rick Strachan's in charge. He was an assistant coach on the team. It's not as if he didn't have a say on anything that happened in that lineup while Chernamaz was in there. Chernamaz always had the final say. Absolutely, he's the head coach. At the end of the day, what he says goes with the team's game plan. But Strachan had a say in that room as well. He had the say on that bench as well. Otherwise, why would he be there? You know. And I know he's been there for the last few seasons. He obviously worked with Nielsen before he left, and he's worked with Chernamaz before he left as well. I don't think this solves the problem. I think, like you said, the Panthers have had stretches before where they've, especially December, like they're known for having really bad stretches of play in December, but they always stick with the head coach and basically grind their way out of it to see how they can do in the second half of the season. I get I get the fact that they wanted to shake the locker room up and basically start from square one come like a week or two into New Year. I get that, especially where they see where they are in the standings. I think this could be an example of Neil Black or Gary Moran or whoever hired or fired him or whatever going, oh, if things keep going the way that they're going, we're not even going to be in the playoffs by the end of the season. So we need to do something to change it, whether that's moving players or changing coaches or anything. Like you said, the fact that they're not, I don't think it's the right thing to do to bring in a new coach at this point in the season. Like the players, I mean, you could argue differently, and I think that'd be an absolutely fair argument to make. However, I just don't think that, like Rick Strachan's obviously had a bit of a say on the system, and he knows how he wants those players to play. He's a bit of a safe option for the Panthers to go with because he's known with the players and everything else. I think if they did this earlier in the season, yeah, get a new head coach, do what the Sheffield Steelers did, get a new guy in because you've got enough time. I don't think they've got enough time to bring in a new head coach and implement potentially a completely new system in order to try and win. I think that would just cause too many problems in with that team. Before I pass on to Max, I just want to say that like I said earlier, I don't think this solves the problem. Like, they need to focus on the playoffs now. Just get to the playoffs, then get to finals weekend, and then we'll see what happens, you know, because anything can happen at finals weekend. I don't care about the Challenge Cup as a sort of short-term Panthers fan myself. I know other fans might completely disagree with me, and they do consider the Challenge Cup legitimate. That's fine. Like, I respect that opinion. I completely disagree. I think it's a pointless trophy, and I've mentioned that several times on the stream before, on the podcast before. So, if they won it, cool, great. It doesn't mean anything to me. Like, go for the playoffs. That's the most important thing, because when you sit there and when fans try and brag to other fans, you don't bring up a Challenge Cup because, like, nobody cares. So I think that the Panthers, this doesn't solve anything, but then again, I can't really think of anything else they could have done in this scenario.
Yeah.
Something had to change with that team. I think maybe they thought that changing the coach would be the easiest thing, because if they get rid of players, they need to find replacements, and there might not have been that many good replacements or people that they consider to be the right people for that team out there in the free agent hockey world or on other teams, or Medvesac Zagreb, for example. So I just think I understand why it's been done, but it doesn't solve anything.
Yeah, I mean, there's two things now. One, Panthers are now going to be stagnant because Strachan isn't going to bring players in. He's going to keep the team as they are, let the new coach deal with it in the summer.
Yeah.
And two, they're in third at the moment, but that is so misleading.
Yeah.
Like, Fife and Glasgow can legitimately overtake us, so that's down to fifth.
Yep.
And although, you know, it's not actually going to happen, but if Dundee, Guildford, Manchester and Sheffield won their games in hand over us as well, we'd only be 2 points inside the playoffs.
Exactly. So I definitely think the management thought, well, if the team keeps playing the way that they're playing under this system that Chernomaz has implemented, then there could be a possibility that we're not in the playoffs come the end of the regular season. So they had to change something. I mean, like I said, I understand why the coach has been changed, because it was his system and it clearly wasn't working. And I think things like benching Alex Guptill, their leading scorer, has something to do with that, and the fan backlash from that was huge. I think it's fair, and rightly so. Like, you don't bench your top scorer regardless of whether you think he's not playing right or not. Like, your top goal scorer legitimately gives you a chance to win every single night, and that's something that the Panthers haven't really experienced very much these last 2 months. So, yeah, I just don't. I think it's pretty much a lost season from the regular season perspective. Like, let's be honest. They've just got to focus on making the playoffs, hopefully try and have a deep run in the playoffs. If they won a playoff championship, I would say, okay, like, it was a shit season. It shouldn't have ended the way that it did, but at least they can finish the year on a high note. You know?
Yeah,
so, Max. Go for it. Let loose, son.
So,
I'm turning the volume up for this.
I've taken time to write notes and try and go through from when Rich was signed and was head coach until the end. So, my understanding that he was signed as a head coach after we'd already signed players. So the roster is not the full roster that he wanted.
Right.
As much as I love Gilipin and other players, I don't think Chernomaz would have wanted him on his team.
Do you have the list of? Do you have the list of players that were already signed before?
No, I tried to find that out. I'm trying to go back. Trying to go back through the archives. I went the long way, and I tried to go back through the archives of NHL of Panthers news.
Right. Yeah. So Chris, get on that.
I'll have a look. The interesting thing, I mean, Max, you might disagree with me on this, but I don't think Lepine is the same player he was first time round.
He's not. He has let me down, and that is a completely different subject. So
What was
I
the
in such high regard.
what was the date that Shernamaz came in?
It's you're probably going to have to Google.
Okay, I thought you'd have a look. That was all.
I just know that a lot of players were brought into the team as big signing news before Chernamaz was signed as a coach.
Yeah.
So Chernamaz comes in with very little understanding of our league, and very little understanding about our team. Yes, his background and yes, his coaching credentials speak very, very highly of him coaching international teams and coaching at a very high level within the German system. But he came in on his own. Panthers gave him Dan Green, Rick Strachan, Goody. Obviously, Goody's going to be his guy anyway, and all the background staff. Chernamaz came in on his own. He had nobody else with him. And if you look at any other successful coach, they have a team that they are comfortable with around them.
That's a very good point. That's a very good point.
Their defense coach, their offense coach, their goalie coach, like
they always bring at least someone. Yeah.
And DEL sides will have that. Okay, we probably can't stretch to that budget wise, but that's probably what he's used to, and he's probably had to do all of that on his own. Granted, Rick will probably help out, but knowing Rick personally, and this is where I get a little bit awkward, is because I've spoken to Rick Strachan, and I know his detail is that he has another job. He does Panthers part-time. He goes and helps out. It's not a full-time thing for him. He has a full-time job that he does as well. Yes, he would have had a say, and yes, he would have given Chernamaz the relative information, so to speak, of our league. But I'm pretty sure that what you saw on the ice was what Chernamaz was trying to put out there, but potentially fighting with the players because he didn't bring them in. So it's like, you see what I'm trying to get at?
Absolutely. They're
not really playing for him because they were like, it's
a clash of ideals.
Yeah.
Exactly. I didn't actually realise that Strachan did it part-time. So I just want to point that out.
To be honest, I didn't either.
Yeah. That's just from me being slightly connected with the club and talking to the right people and hearing the right things. Yeah. As for Strachan taking over, it's the best bet. He was with Corey for the whole complete time. He knows the Panthers inside out. I'm pretty sure Neil Black is very aware of who he is and will have the confidence in him because he worked with Corey for so long.
Yeah.
The guys know him really well. The background staff know him really well. It's as if you've kind of given the coach, the full background staff that the other coach needed, but you've got rid of him.
Yeah.
And on the fact of Panthers have never really experienced a coach going mid-season. Well, they trusted Corey. Corey was with the team as a player coach, and as a full-time bench coach. He won them trophies, which inevitably extended his career, extended his life as a coach. I'm pretty sure if Corey had a season like this earlier on in his career as player coach or as bench coach, he probably would have been subject to the same fate, if not a start of the season or end of the season, maybe even midway through. But I think just because they can do this now, they have done it. They've they can't ship out any more players and bring any more in because they've tried that and it's failed. We've had De Verden go, we've had Van Cleef go, we've had Sam Gospel in and out of playing goalie. It has been the most turmoil and turbulent year as a Panthers fan, to the point where I love hockey, and you guys both know this. I love hockey with more than a passion.
Yeah.
I'll move heaven and earth. I'll move heaven and earth to go and watch hockey, and it's come to the point now where I'm even looking at Panthers fixtures and going, do I really want to go to this game?
Yeah.
Do I really want to get in the car?
And the sad thing is, you're not the only person that's felt like that.
I know.
Nowhere near.
I know, and the problem is that there is enough people willing to football the people that are coming out that the Panthers organisation would never know that those people are missing.
I mean, just look at what they were putting up today. I mean, there's less than 100 seats left for the game against Cardiff on Saturday.
I know, and
which is great because so many people are going to watch.
Yeah,
However,
but I've seen people. I've seen articles about. I mean, Max, I don't know if you're aware of Paul Barn.
yeah,
Yeah, and he put the article like the people in front of him. There's a big group, and they've gone for a night out for beer, and they're checking their phone and checking emails during the game. They're not immersed in the game.
No,
that's almost a second to them.
Yeah, and it's a very very interesting article. I'll try and send Old Man a rush.
Please do send that.
Yeah.
It's very interesting.
So you can blast that out because it's both of his articles recently. He's put two out. They're very very good.
I was interested to your, the players that aren't his players.
Please do tell us.
You were saying. Well, I mean, Piver signed in January last year, but then he had a contract extension under Chernamaz.
Right.
The only other one that was before he came in was Vascuvo, however you. Whereas then you've got Kovacs, Hughes, Olsen, Doty, Rowe, Lepine, Henderson, Guptill, Biggs, Risling, Hurtubise, Van Cleef, Baldock, Turvden, Munson. All these were in his era.
However, I guess that brings in the question: how many of those players were Chernamaz going, we should have this player, and how many of them were the Panthers management going, you're having this player?
Well, I mean, look at it the flip side, because obviously there is quite a turnaround over summer, because over summer, Galbraith, Suave, Phillips, Spang, Brown, Delago, Mosey, Lindhagen, Mokszantsev, Brisebois, Gagnon. Doty's gone again. Gospel, of course, has been in and out. Van Cleef's gone. Biggs has gone. It's all, there's a big turnaround.
Quite a few of them you've got to take with a pinch of salt because they've gone to, for want of a better term, bigger or better leagues. So
they've gone over
and of course,
to
there's
America
always going to be
quite a few.
turnaround with especially with the Elite League, because the nature of how many imports we have come to our league and how many leave after 1 year to go to another league and do exactly the same thing. But yeah, I think it's I definitely think, and I've seen so many people mention this, and this is kind of going into a bigger discussion.
I've opened this up a little bit. I'm sorry.
No.
That's all right.
I'm glad that you did, because the Nottingham Panthers. I'm somebody that's to be honest, I'm quite disconnected from the Panthers. I'm probably as connected as I could be at the moment, because the best way I can keep in up to date is either with you two or with their Twitter, because I live so far away. I can't really get access to that insider information. So. Or I don't really know like the rumblings around the place or anything. So the interesting thing that I've noticed is from sort of following the league for the last 2 seasons or so, like I'm still very much like an Elite League virgin and all that. I think the Panthers, to me, have always been regarded as a team that their relationship with their fans hasn't been as good as some of the other teams in the league. I think that's obvious.
It's been better in past years.
Of course, yeah, but like
it has. I think Callum's made a big difference.
Yeah,
but it's not as good as it used to be. It was never as good as it used to. It started to change. I think it was the second or third year. My parents aren't massive hockey fans. They are massive hockey fans now. I was the only one in my family. I started bringing them along to games. They fell in love with it, and we found out
they
that
sound like great parents.
They're awesome parents. They back me to the hill. But started bringing them along to games. Said, how can we be more involved? They wanted to meet the players, etc. And at that point there was a supporters club. We signed up to the supporters club.
Don't get me started on the supporters club.
I know. But I'm just saying that was the connection with the team to the players, the fans, everything else, and then that liquefied through whatever reasons. Like it got squashed out by the team.
Yeah,
by the Nottingham Panthers, saying that because they're the Nottingham Panthers players, you can't. And there was a load of politics. It's a sore subject for a much wider discussion. But
by the sounds of it, and I think this is a fair statement, the Panthers are being run more like a business nowadays than a community.
Oh yeah,
like so,
100%.
And I think that's quite clear to other teams or other fans around the league. And I think the interesting thing is that I would argue, and I've only been a fan for 2 seasons, so feel free to correct me if I'm wrong, because you two have followed the team a lot more than I have. I would say that the team is so disconnected from its own fan base that it doesn't know what to do to make the fans feel like it's worth their time. Like, there's so many other battles that British ice hockey have in this country at the moment, with trying to become relevant, trying to actually be talked about within the mainstream sports media, which is, of course, a topic for another day, absolutely, and we've talked about it before.
Yeah.
But I think when you're at the point where your own fans want, or you could call them fair weather fans, I disagree, I think they're fans, that expect you to lose, expect you to not care how the fans think, and expect you to just not give a shit about what anybody says. I think that's a really sad day in a hockey franchise's existence, especially in the British League, where you want your fans to fall in love with it, because then you know that they're going to support you through thick and thin. Like, every single time you see a post from the Panthers, especially during a game on Twitter, 95% of them are from Panthers fans taking the piss out of their own team.
Yeah.
Because you know that they've had enough. Like, they've had enough of how the organisation is being run from a fan perspective. Now, I've mentioned this several times. We've mentioned this loads of times over the weeks. The Sheffield Steelers, they've got their own problems within the organisation. They've got some people that other people around the league aren't too fond of. But the way they interact with their fans, I would argue, is second to none. Absolutely. Like, they are perfect, like, with getting kids involved in the game, with the with charity work that they do. I think they're fucking incredible. Like, the Sheffield Steelers are really good. They are a brilliant franchise at inspiring the next generation of hockey fans, and they really do their best to reward the fans. And it shows any game that you go to the Steelers, including this season, which is quite interesting. A season where they have been god-awful, for want of a better word, but I think that's the honest response. Like, they've played really badly so far this season. And, of course, you have your fans saying, oh, this isn't good enough, like, I've had enough. Of course you do. Like, you're always going to get out with a team that loses. But the majority of the fans are so, like, we'll get out of this, it'll be fine. They still have that hope that their team will get better, because they know that the PR is on their side. Like, they want fans to keep coming to games. Like, they appreciate everything that the fans do for them to keep their club being so successful as it has these last few years. The Panthers don't have that, from what I can see. So, it's a shame.
I think that management have kind of disconnected themselves with what
the
sport's all about, how things. You need to look at Cardiff, Sheffield, and Belfast, the other arena teams, and see how they're run. I want to kind of circle back to some things that you brought up. Would the Challenge Cup be enough to say it's an okay season or a better season than what has been laid out? 99%, hopefully 99% of fans would say no. There's obviously going to be those guys that say, okay, we won something, and it would be nice to win something.
Yeah.
But you don't get anything for the Challenge Cup. You don't go to Europe. You don't go off and do anything extra. You don't get any extra. You know, it's not like winning the playoffs or winning the league, where you go to the Continental Cup or playing in Europe in the CHL. But the team would jump on that. The team would jump on that and say, Rick Strachan has pulled us out of a deep hole, and we've won a trophy. We've won our trophy. They'll say, it's Panthers' trophy. We've won it so many times.
Yeah, won it 5 years in a row. It's our trophy.
Exactly. We've won it more than any other team. Brilliant. With the fact of sitting Guptill, that I think was Rick sending a message to the team saying, look, this guy carries you. This guy carries the team, because he goes out there and he scores points. He may not be the prettiest player. He may not be, at times, the most enthusiastic player. But
he finds a way to do it.
But yeah, exactly. As much as I hate it, I don't like the guy for his on-ice play. He's a lot like Chris Lawrence. He's in the right place at the right time. Whether he's getting there half-arsedly or whether he's absolutely busting a gut and playing out of his skin, you don't know what you're going to get. But he does find a way to produce points. And I think that was Rich Chominaz just turning around to the team and saying, look, I'm going to sit Guptill. Somebody else the rest of you have got to show me something.
Yeah.
If you want to win games, you can't just rely on Guptill. I can't just rely on Guptill. I need to see something from other people.
Which is fair. Absolutely fair.
Which is completely fair. Absolutely
Something
fair.
that struck me recently and the games. So I went to the. Obviously, I don't go as often as you do, Max. So I went to the game against Manchester and the Teddy Bear Toss game. The two games we've been shut out.
Oh, you
just don't go to any more games this season, Chris.
Well, I'm probably not.
Yeah, exactly.
I have been more. I mean, this is something that struck me as a fan, is that because talking about the disengagement between the club and the fans, I've been more disappointed in the fact that I won't say wasted. That's not the right word, but I haven't got the value for my 20. Well, I mean, because I always get 40 quid for the two tickets.
Yeah.
I haven't got value out of it, rather than, oh no, my team's lost. I'm there. I'm there more thinking, that's 40 quid I could have put on something else for that.
Yeah.
And that's it's sad to me, but I don't feel engaged with the club.
See. Also, I think it's whether this is relevant or not. I haven't been to a single Panthers game this season. I usually go to about 1 or 2 every year.
And if you missed it?
Not particularly.
There we go. That tells you everything you need to know.
To be fair, like I haven't bought as many webcasts as I did last season. I'm actually quite glad that they don't do webcasts now, because that would just be 10 quid that I would have wasted on them giving a half-assed effort and not trying and then losing. Like, I'm not going to pay 10 quid for that. I'll just read the Twitter updates for it. Or get the flash scores update going, they played like shit again. Oh, what a surprise. Like, so, I mean, granted, I would have got up to Nottingham at least one point this last, since the season started, but I've had lots of other stuff going on, and of course I went to the KHL game, and I've had like other interesting things happen, and of course it's such a big journey for me, like I don't really get the opportunity to very often.
Yeah.
But like you said, I haven't really missed it. No. I mean, maybe towards the start of the season I would have been happy to have gone. But at this point, no, I don't want to go at any point. No. I'm fine.
And I still enjoy going to Lions. And okay, they've lost 26 in a row, but they still work for it.
Yeah.
And they still play for it.
That's the difference. You can see the effort level. I don't mind going to a game and them losing, as long as there's an effort level.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
As long as I can physically see, okay, maybe not every player's put 110% in. Players are going to have off nights and not do well or whatever.
Well, but there's a difference between an off night and not trying.
Exactly. And
I would expect, especially for. I think this is coming from the perspective of somebody that has to travel a very long way to get to these games. Like, of course, I get wrapped up in the whole, like, this is something I don't do very often, so I'm going to enjoy it regardless. Like, I'm not somebody that gets to go every week. However, like, I would rather the team lose and have... but they've left their hearts out on the ice. Like, they've done everything they possibly could to try and win that game, but the hockey gods just had other plans. Then they win... either by the skin of their teeth or not, and they just get lucky, or like you said, Guptill does all the work for them. I'm not there to watch one player be a star. I'm there to watch the team work well. Hockey is a team sport. If I wanted to watch one player be a star, I'd go watch football. You know?
But you go a goal down, and it's every man. I know I mentioned this last week, so I'm only going to say it quickly.
Yeah.
They've got like a 5-10 yard head start on the opposition player to go and pick up a loose puck, and they still lose the race.
Yep.
You can just see the opposition trying more.
I think what Max mentioned, that goes into, it's either the players had lost the coach or the coach had lost the players. It's one of the two.
And I'd like to give Chevenaz the benefit of the doubt. I think he was put in a very, very awkward situation. Like, Panthers are a we want to win organisation, and I don't think they're open. I don't think their eyes are open to the fact that, hold on, this might take 2 years, 3 years, potentially 5 years of getting a system in place, getting the right players in place, dropping some of the wheat in the chaff, and basically just doing a rebuild. It sounds awful. Like, okay, we do that basically every year, but you get the right people in, they stick around. Cardiff, Belfast, the Steelers to an extent, apart from the cash out that they've had recently,
which has really shown when they've had lots of players stick around, they've been an incredibly successful team.
Exactly.
The problem is they're one of those teams who it's so expectant that they do well year after year after year and win something every year. It's like Manchester United. They were in like 5th and sacked the manager.
But exactly, they're one of the teams that have the biggest budget in the league, so of course you're going to expect that. Yeah.
But then there's no patience and acceptance when things inevitably at some point.
When it's they're essentially like, to be like, for want of a better comparison, they're like the Montreal Canadiens of the Elite League. Like, they're a team that has a lot of historical success. Their fans are like, they'll stick with them till the very end, but they expect them to win the Stanley Cup every year. Even when they're going through a rebuild, like, it's not going to happen.
Yeah.
They're not going to win something every single year. They haven't won the cup. Like, this is one of their longest droughts in forever. Like, you know, for the Montreal Canadiens, that is. But I think it's one of those scenarios that, because they're a team that has a huge budget, they're a team that has one of the biggest arenas in the league, they're one of the teams that's been around the longest and has had the most success compared to some of the other teams in the league, there's that expectation, especially from the diehard fans, that they should be competing every year. And they absolutely should. The amount of money that they have compared to some of these smaller organisations. You take a team like Guildford, for example. Look how fantastically they are doing so far since they joined the Elite League. I bet they have a fraction of what the Panthers have. They don't even have their own arena. It's part of a leisure centre. Like, they have nothing compared to what the Panthers have. And whilst they're not doing as well in the standings, they're playing them on Wednesday in the Challenge Cup. Like, they're at the exact same position as the Panthers are.
I'd back Guildford to potentially take a...
I was about to say the same. I'm backing Guildford. I'm backing Guildford.
You know what? I wouldn't be mad.
No. But this is the thing. I'm not.
It's sad that it's come to be expected now.
Yeah.
We've got to that point in the season where it's like, I don't think we're going to win this.
I expect them to lose.
You look at pre-season. Yeah. Pre-season was amazing this year for the Panthers.
Yeah.
And it's all fell by the wayside. But I think we should move on to another topic because we've...
Yeah.
It's like it's 8 and we're going to have to skip some stuff out here.
Yeah.
I think, let me just mention the last British hockey news. This won't be our discussion topic. As you know, we've already had a bit of a discussion. But this is something very interesting that I believe Chris brought to my attention a couple of days ago. And then we'll move on to quickly rattle through all the NHL stuff. Some interesting stuff there. And there's a couple of extra things that I found just before we started streaming. So, the Murrayfield Racers. So, of course, we mentioned... towards the beginning of the podcast series, the Edinburgh Capitals, the Murrayfield Racers, two teams both wanting to go for the same ice, the same arena, and essentially the place said no to either team to begin with, and then they made a deal with the Murrayfield Racers, which is essentially the revival of an old team, with the brother, Tony Hand, who's a legend in British ice hockey, is a group led by his brother, they essentially have made this franchise. They wanted to try and go in the Elite League. However, they have played some games with EIHL
the Elite
teams.
League said no,
and like Autumn Cups and stuff like that. Essentially, they didn't have all the necessary clearance to be able to go into the Elite League. We had some news this last week about the Murrayfield Racers. They have now signed a deal with the Murrayfield Ice Rink. That means that they are going to be with the at the ice rink for the next year at least. It doesn't say exactly how long they're going to be there. So I've got an article written by the Edinburgh Evening News. So Murrayfield Racers have signed a deal which secures their future, but have ruled out applying for the Elite League. So the club have announced a deal with the board of directors at Murrayfield Ice Rink that will see the team compete at the Edinburgh facility for the foreseeable future. However, the level of opposition next season remains unclear. The Racers won the ice time contract at Murrayfield last summer from the previous tenants, the Edinburgh Capitals, who are, for want of a better word, dead now. Like, I think this is the final nail in the coffin. Like, the Edinburgh Capitals are officially dead. And that move ended 20 years of professional ice hockey in the city. However, they weren't very good years. After failing to replace the Capitals in the Elite League, the Racers are playing in the Scottish National League, which is an amateur league, remaining undefeated in all competitions to date, interestingly enough, as well as pitting themselves against semi-professional NIHL teams in the North Cup, losing all 11 of their matches in the home and away round-robin competition. Hey,
yeah, but they beat Sheffield the other night.
Yeah, I saw something for that.
Yes, somebody mentioned that, I think, earlier in the chat, which is pretty cool. So they've got one win. That's a good start. So they're learning from the Edinburgh Capitals to an extent. Essentially, what has been said about this is the Racers director, Willie Dunn, said he's pleased about all this stuff. We have somewhere to play and there won't be any competitive tending. We can go forward and investigate what is the best setup for us next season. Asked on the personal preference of the club. To be honest, we've really enjoyed our time in the SNL. We've had some really competitive games, especially recently. If that league can be improved or expanded, then that would be great. The NIHL, we learned from that. It's a big step up for the squad. But in terms of the Elite League, I don't think we'll be approaching them, and I don't know if they'd ever approach us. But our door is always open to look at that. At this stage, it would probably be a step too far, but you can never say never. If they're looking for a team to fill a spot, we would talk with them. So the Elite League haven't approached the Murrayfield Racers yet. The Murrayfield Racers don't sound like they're going to approach the Elite League. They're quite happy to carry on with what they're doing for next season. So it will be interesting to see what happens with the Murrayfield Racers in the following years. However, it is very clear that the Edinburgh Capitals are now dead. They're officially dead and gone. To be fair, not that anybody outside of Edinburgh was really missing them that much anymore, except the teams wanting an easy 2 points. I'm sure the Panthers would have enjoyed it at this point in the season, although they probably would have lost knowing them. So that's a shame that the Edinburgh Capitals have gone. However, Edinburgh hockey fans, you've got a team there still, so that's great, and they're going to be at the rink for the foreseeable future, so that's really good to know. I think that's really good for Edinburgh hockey fans, the fact that they've got somewhere to go. So I assume a lot of the Capitals fans will move over to that team, or if they haven't done so already, and they'll have the chance to watch hockey in Edinburgh, which is a place where they've had some fans that have gone through a tough time. And I think they deserve a franchise to have some success. So
I mean, I will say one thing on this, because we really need to rattle through. There are changes to the league structures in British ice hockey being progressed. And I don't know anything more than that, but they are making league structure changes. Don't know what they are. Tried to find out, couldn't. But there are structures being progressed and talked about.
So I'm sure that we'll talk about it at some point in the future when more information is given to us. So that's the all the Elite League British stuff. I'm glad that we spent the majority of the podcast talking about it. However, we have got to move on. Let's just rattle these off quickly. So with the standings in the National Hockey League, we're moving across the pond now. It's just kind of more of the same to an extent. The Tampa Bay Lightning are still leading the league by 7 points. They have 76 points in 49 games. They have 7 points more than Calgary, who are in second place, but Tampa Bay have one game in hand on them. So the top 5 teams in the league at the moment, in the league standings, Tampa Bay, Calgary, Winnipeg, San Jose, and the Islanders. So that's very interesting. The New York Islanders have played very well these last few games. Barry Trotz has really turned that franchise around, considering they lost John Tavares over this last off-season. And then the bottom 5 teams in the standings. Last place we have the Los Angeles Kings. Next, the Detroit Red Wings. Then the Chicago Blackhawks, the Ottawa Senators, and the New Jersey Devils. So the Philadelphia Flyers have had a pretty good run recently. They were bottom of the standings last week. They've gone on a 3-game winning streak. They've now jumped up to 26th. The New York Rangers are in 21st. They've won 4 of their last 5 games. This is going all right. They beat the Boston Bruins that last game, and Philip Heatle got shoved into Tuukka Rask and gave him a concussion. Thanks, Charlie McAvoy. Really helping our team. Yeah, cheers, bud. It was a lovely goal. Philip Heatle scored almost identical goals in the last 2 games. They're very nice. So yeah, that's to do with the standings. I'm not going to go into more detail about that. Look at it yourself. So then we move on to some trades. There have been some trades take place recently. We are about, I think, just under 2 months away from the trade deadline. I am looking forward to the trade deadline. There's no doubt I will either do a podcast or some sort of video when the trade deadline happens, because it's actually a decent time in the UK. I think it's like 12 p.m. Eastern, so it's like 5 p.m. for us, something like that. So most of the trades that have taken place are small deals. There's one big trade that's taken place, or the biggest trade that's taken place. So the Anaheim Ducks have been very active with their trading. They acquired Pontus Aberg for Justin Kloos from the Minnesota Wild. They also acquired Michael Del Zotto from the Vancouver Canucks in exchange for Luke Shen and a 2020 7th round pick. They also, well, that's mainly them. But the big trade was the Carolina Hurricanes and the Minnesota Wild. The Carolina Hurricanes acquired forward Nino Niederreiter from the Minnesota Wild in exchange for forward Victor Rask. So a lot of people very interested to see the response here. I definitely think that the Carolina Hurricanes won this trade, hands down. Nino Niederreiter's got off to a pretty good start so far. I believe he had 2 goals last night for the Hurricanes, I believe. I don't have his exact stats with me. I might be able to check here, actually. So yeah, anybody want to mention anything about that trade? That's the biggest one that we've had so far. There's no doubt in the coming weeks we're going to have plenty more trades. But just before I move over to one of you guys, let me just get up his stats. It's just loading. Give me a sec. Bear with.
I mean, I don't really have any. I'm really conscious at the time. I don't really have anything to say on it, if I'm honest.
No, the only thing like trade-wise I've got to think about is I popped upon NHL that Bruins are making a push for the Philadelphia Flyers. Wayne Simmons or Wayne Simmons?
Wayne Simmons.
Wayne.
Yeah.
I've got to be honest, that would be a brilliant pickup for the Bruins. He's exactly the kind of player that the Bruins would want.
I think they'd have to go with a fair amount though.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Sorry, just to add, the 2 goals that Niederreiter scored, they're the 2 points that he's had in 2 games with the Carolina Hurricanes. His previous season bests are 57 points in the 16-17 season. He had 25 goals and 32 assists in that span. With the Minnesota Wild this season, he had 9 goals and 14 assists for 23 points. So, a bit of a down year for him. He scored 233 points in exactly 500 NHL games. So, that second game with Carolina was his 500th NHL game. So, ooh. I bet he wasn't expecting to spend his 500th game with the Carolina Hurricanes, I'll tell you that. But the Carolina Hurricanes are usually the team on the wrong end of these trades, but I think this was a trade they finally got right, and I think they deserve that. As you've seen with my Champs to Chumps video, if you've watched that last week, which most of you did, so thanks.
No.
Oh, well.
I'm about 6 minutes into it.
Like, they're a team that, like, they really need they need the playoffs at some point. They've been waiting long enough. They've been waiting essentially since 2 years after their cup victory. It's almost been a decade since they haven't made the playoffs, and that's ridiculous. The next piece of news, which is relevant to the jersey on the right of Max Artis there in his shot. I thought I'd mention that. Jarome Iginla is having his number 12 retired by the Calgary Flames on March 2nd this year. Now, just a bit of backstory. There it is. So, a bit of backstory. Iginla was a member of the Atlanta Flames before they moved to Calgary, of course. He's the team's, or the franchise's, all-time leader in goals with 525, points with 1,095, and games played with 1,219. He played his first 16 NHL seasons with the team and was one of the league's premier power forwards, finishing his career overall with 1,300 points in 1,554 games from 1996, the year that I was born, to 2017. He's tied with Joe Sakic for 16th place in NHL history in goals and is one of 13 players to score at least 30 goals in 12 seasons. That's fucking incredible. He didn't play last season, and he returned to Calgary during the 2018 off-season to announce his retirement on July 30th, 2018. So, yeah, there's lots of other stats, but you can go look them up yourself. Max, do you want to add anything on Iginla having his number retired?
No, just that I've seen the guy play pretty much his whole career. He's always been a player that has fascinated me, watching him and everything. I had to get one of his jerseys. The fact that it's a Heritage Cup, one that looks a little bit like McDonald's would wear it. is a shame.
It does look like Ronald
No,
McDonald.
I like it though. I
It's
think
good.
it's like ideal heritage classic type jersey, you know.
Yeah, it's outlandish and crazy, and it had to be Iggy, and I picked it up. It was great. He's one of my favourite players. Hopefully, I'll be able to share my knowledge of how much I love certain players in future videos.
Yes, we will talk about that towards the end of the podcast. I wasn't sure whether you wanted to mention it or not yet.
I would love.
So, so that's with Jerome McGinley. I always thought he was a great player. I remember the time he got traded to Pittsburgh at the trade deadline, and he literally spent like 10 games with the team and then moved on the off-season. I was just like, great job, Pittsburgh.
Yeah, he did bounce around, unfortunately, quite a lot.
Yeah, well, towards the end of his career, obviously, but did he finish his career with Colorado, I want to say? I know he spent a few years there.
He spent some time in Boston as well.
Yes, he spent some time in Boston. I think he finished his career with Colorado. I think he signed like a 2-year contract there and ended his career there. I probably could have checked a minute ago, but here we are. The penultimate bit of news that you two know about, the NHL and the NHL Players Association announced on January 17th that there will not be a World Cup of Hockey in 2020. So this is a article on the NHL website. The NHL made a statement saying the NHL and the NHLPA had another constructive meeting today in Toronto. Whilst the parties have now jointly concluded that it is no longer realistic to schedule a World Cup of Hockey for the fall of 2020, that's autumn for us Brits, they plan to continue their dialogue with a hope of being able to schedule the next World Cup event as part of a broader agreement, which would include a long-term international event calendar. The NHL Players Association said, he finished his career with the Kings. Thank you very much. Appreciate it. The players are focused on finding the proper time to schedule the World Cup of Hockey within the context of an overall international hockey calendar. While we in the league have discussed the possibility of hosting the next World Cup in September 2020, we jointly concluded that it is unrealistic to expect that preparations for the event would be completed in time. So this is coming off the World Cup of Hockey that was hosted in 2016, where Team Canada defeated Team Europe for the championship in the finals. So, no World Cup of Hockey, which is a shame.
I have a thought on this though.
What's that?
I have a quick theory on this.
Go for it.
The reason why there's no World Cup of Hockey, because the NHL are going to go to the Olympics.
That would be good.
Where are the Olympics being held?
Oh, is it Canada?
No, I think it's China.
Right.
I think the Winter Games are being held in China now.
Can I make a point?
Quickly, go on.
The Winter Olympics are in 2022, not 2020.
Yeah, no, but that's not the point. The problem is the NHL players didn't go to the Olympics last Olympics, and that was of course a highly contentious issue within the NHL community. A lot of NHL fans and a lot of hockey fans didn't tune in to the Winter Olympics because NHL players, especially Canadians and North Americans, they didn't tune into the Winter Olympics because NHL players weren't there. I would argue that I actually enjoyed the Winter Olympics more knowing that they weren't there, because then it was a slightly more even playing field. Like we had Germany in the final. If NHL players weren't there, I don't think they would have been there. And I think the Olympic athletes from Russia team, they kind of became the team to beat because of all the KHL players that they had playing. But yeah, I think I agree with you, Max. They're focusing on trying to get the players to the Olympics because they know that the players want to play in the Olympics. Like, you have so many of the high-profile players. Sorry, go on.
Oh, sorry. I was just saying it's in a market they want to expand to, and they've had games out there this year.
Exactly, yeah, which I think is a very good point. I think it's all coming together now. And, of course, the KHL have a team in China. They have the Kowloon Red Star. So they're kind of wanting to compete with, make sure that Asia is the market that goes to the NHL rather than the KHL. So yeah, that's to do with that. Then two quick bits of news. Teuvo Teravainen, going back to the Carolina Hurricanes, it was announced earlier today, about an hour or so ago, that he has agreed to a 5-year, $27 million contract with the Carolina Hurricanes. He's got him a contract extension. He's 24 years old. The contract will run through to the 23-24 season. And he is currently second place on the Hurricanes with points, with 39, assists with 29, and power play points with 12 this season. He has 145 points in 211 games with the Carolina Hurricanes since being acquired in a trade with the Chicago Blackhawks on June 15th, 2016. He was, of course, a first-round pick, number 18, of the 2012 NHL draft, and he has 189 points in 326 games. So the majority, if not all of his points, have come from his time in Carolina, getting the chance to be that top 6 forward. I think it's a no-brainer. Do you guys want to add anything on that?
It's a big contract, so...
I mean, compared to some of the other contracts we've got, that's actually pretty tame. Like,
yeah.
Well, true.
If he continues, if he starts putting up solid numbers in his prime, $5.5 million will be a bargain a season. Considering what Conor McDavid's making, what, $12 million a year?
Yeah, that's true.
So, of course, Conor McDavid is Conor McDavid, but just for a sense of, like, Carey Price is the highest paid goaltender with $10 million a season. So that's a bit of, like, a bit of context for you. Now, the last interesting bit of news from the NHL, which I thought would be nice to add, the undrafted future Hall of Famer, well, no, he is a Hall of Famer now because he was inducted this last year, Martin St. Louis has been named the special teams consultant for the Columbus Blue Jackets. So the former NHL forward was named special teams consultant for the Blue Jackets on Monday. John Tortorella, who coached St. Louis during their championship run, and also, no, I was going to say he played with him during the New York Rangers, but no, that was Alain Vigneault. Hey, he was great, wasn't he? The 43-year-old St. Louis played 17 seasons in the NHL with the Calgary Flames, the Tampa Bay Lightning, and the New York Rangers, scoring 1,033 points in 1,134 games. He also had 90 points in 107 career Stanley Cup playoff games. Wow, he was clutch in the playoffs. He was inducted into the Hall of Fame on November 12th, and he's now got himself a backbench job with the Blue Jackets, which they're not quite sure exactly what his role is going to be. It's still being developed according to Tortorella, but we'll see within the coming weeks what happens. So I think that's a good pickup. I mean, a player turned coach. I think he was still living in the New York area, but of course he's going to have to move to Columbus to deal with all this stuff. I think that's pretty cool. I think that's I wish him the best.
I think the team's a bit strange. So like, I'm glad that he's gone and got a decent job, and it's probably the right thing for him to do. I just thought he would probably have gone to either, well, obviously probably Lightning don't really need him because they're doing so well. But I think he probably could have gone to Rangers.
I would have liked that. I mean, I really liked Martin St. Louis as a New York Ranger. I think one of the most touching things I remember during sort of my fandom is when his mum passed away during the 2014 playoffs, and the fact that he quite literally played his heart out. And he basically dedicated every single point to his mum, which I thought was lovely. And like the way that the team rallied behind him, that was kind of the storyline that got them to the finals. And then Alec Martinez had to ruin it.
They played for him. They played for him.
Yeah, which was really good. I still haven't forgiven the Kings for that. I never will. So moving on to last quick bits of news, and we'll have a quick little discussion bit with you guys. The KHL All-Star Game, All-Star Skills Competition, and All-Star Game took place this last weekend. One of the guys from Dynamo Riga played the guitar and sang a song, and apparently it was quite nice. That's the bit that I saw the most from the KHL All-Star Game, which was pretty cool. He can play instruments. I mean, so can I, but you don't see me doing it. So, yeah, I mean, if you want a musical stream, let me know. But yeah, so All-Star Skills Competition, I believe the division, I can't pronounce the names for the life of me. I believe the division with CSK, Moscow, and SK, St. Petersburg, and all that won the skills competition, which I'm not surprised. They have the best players in the league in that division. And finally, before we move on to Brits Abroad, the Champions Hockey League. We mentioned last week that the Red Bull teams were going up against each other for the final for the semi-final to get their place in the final. And, of course, it was no goal after the first leg. Red Bull Munich managed to beat Red Bull Salzburg to win the game 3-1. So it's Frölunda against Munich for the final on February 3rd, I think. February 6th, something like that.
It's the same day as the NFL Super Bowl.
Oh, is it? Oh, okay.
Yeah, it's Super Bowl Sunday. So you can have a double matchup stream if you want.
You know what? I might actually do that. I'm
definitely watching the Super Bowl.
No, I'm definitely thinking about doing one for the Champions Hockey League final, because I assume Premier Sports will be showing it. I think they are.
Probably.
I'd prefer a Free Sports, dude, because my subscription might be over for Premier Sports by the time it's actually played. But I don't really want to pay a tenner just for one game. What's that?
You could probably call them up and just say, look, can you extend it to just this?
Don't you know who I am?
The amount of free advertising.
Yeah. So Red Bull Munich, I believe they are the first German team to make it to the final of the Champions Hockey League. And like I mentioned in one of my community posts, Frölunda have made the finals 3 out of the 4 years. Now 4 out of the 5 years that the Champions Hockey League has been running, and they've won it twice. However, they were the first 2 years that the tournament ran. So if you're a betting man, I would say go Frölunda, because chances are they're going to win it based on history and the fact that they are a very good team. Captain of the team is Henrik Lundqvist's twin, Joel Lundqvist. Champions Hockey League. I might put up a poll in the next week or so asking if you guys want me to do a live chat of that. I'm going to be doing one of All-Star Weekend because so many of you guys voted and want to see me suffer and not sleep. So let's do it. So Brits Abroad, quickly for us, please, Chris. Kirk's corner.
Okay. So Kirk, we did. He hasn't played for Peterborough because he played for the under-20s. 5 + 9 for 14 points in the tournament. He's going to obviously head back to Peterborough. Yep. Tomo, unfortunately, the Schwenninger Wild Wings are back at the bottom of the table. They did take this week a 3-2 loss and then a 4-3 overtime win.
Okay, can you still hear me? Because we've had a bit of a drop frame issue.
I can still hear you. Reloading on mine.
Yeah, sorry about the lag, guys. We're trying to run through it quickly. Internet, give me a second. So
come on, we need like another 4 minutes, something like
that. So just remind me, did Tomo do well?
No, he did a loss and an overtime win.
God
back at the bottom
damn
of the table.
Tomo. Well, that's all right. 500, why not? Then we've got Fantasy League. Let me just wrap it up for you shortly. I won. Chris won.
Max is below 500.
And
he's below 500
by 3 games. The next fantasy hockey is over 2 weeks because of the All-Star break. We've got a lot of bye weeks. Of course, the NHL introduced a couple of seasons ago that each team has to have a full 5 days off or a full week off. So a lot of teams are taking that either before or after All-Star break. I think it's between January and February they have to have that. So, So fantasy, we won't really be updating you a huge amount next week because it's running over 2 weeks. I didn't edit my lineup at all this last week, and I still won, so I'm quite happy.
Me as well.
There you go. We're at the end of the podcast, essentially. If there's any questions that you would like to ask, anything that you'd like us to quickly talk about, we've got like 5 minutes or so. Because we managed to run through everything else pretty quickly. It's just we had a lot to talk about this week. And not so much like because we've been away a while, but because there's been a lot happening.
And like especially when we've got Max in as well, like the three of us, when we get into a discussion topic, we could easily do an entire stream just about the Elite League.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
So to try
its problems, its pitfalls, and everything else, like you could really do that.
Easy.
Really big.
Are we watching the playoffs? I'm almost tempted to kind of like see if we can get like an odd man group.
I'd love to do a podcast live from playoff weekend. Like, how cool would that be? Like in the
I know the
National
Cats Whiskers have done it.
I'll tell you right now, you don't need a ticket to the games to experience the atmosphere. The bars
you don't.
The bars around the city, like Annie's Burger Shack, which is about a 5-minute walk from the arena, will probably be showing the games because they're a sponsor of the Panthers. Bunkers Hill will have it on because it's on Premier Sport. They've got a subscription. The Legend will have it on, but the Legend's a legend. And
for odd man to come all the way up though, you kind of want to see them live.
Yeah, I know, but if it's going to cost too much,
you know what?
Right, yeah.
You know what? I want to see how big the channel's got by the time we're getting near April. I want to be like National Ice Centre. I'm a local celebrity here. I want to do a podcast at the National Ice Centre before the games on finals weekend. You know what I'll say? No. And you know what?
How much do you have to grow to be legitimately like biggest British hockey YouTuber?
Biggest British.
I think he's probably there.
Yeah, probably already there.
I'm that far off. Like
British one. I don't know any other British
No, I don't.
Hockey
Any
YouTube.
like other? I mean, I guess this is a question that could be opened up broader. Are there actually any other British hockey YouTubers that aren't like Elite League highlights or anything like that?
Hockey tutorial, but they are information based on equipment and gear and
Are they
sticks.
British?
Yeah.
So they don't really talk about hockey, but they do. Their stuff is interesting, but it's nothing. It's not anything like this. That makes sense.
Right. Yeah.
No.
Yeah.
They don't focus on British hockey, is what I'm trying to say.
Yeah. No, I get you. Are they actually British though?
Yeah.
How many subs have they got?
I shall find out.
It's got to be a tough slog to get past them, isn't it?
They're only on 100k, 110.
Only 100k.
Only
Have you seen my channel, Max?
But let's okay. So what was your growth in the last 3 to 4 weeks? Because it was exponential, wasn't it?
Yeah, I have
About
doubled my
triple.
subscriber base at least over the last month.
Okay, so if you go at half that pace for the next 5 months.
Yeah, but it's only 2 months pretty much to April.
Yeah, I know. I'm thinking longer term. Like if you want to surpass them, but I think legitimately you are the largest YouTuber following.
Oh, stop it.
that focuses on the Elite League as a primary podcast topic anyway.
Yeah. And as I've said before, I'd be happy to do more stuff on the Elite League. It's just most of my viewer base is from North America, so they're not particularly interested, and fair enough. But on the flip side, what's it called? The Elite League don't really seem to be interested in like helping me grow, and in turn me helping them grow. You know, so which I'm not going to go into, but let's just say that I've tried to make a connection with them, and they're not particularly that keen, which is fair enough. They're well within their right to do so, but yeah. So as we get into the end of the stream, those of you that are still here, there's not many of you, understandably. I'd just like to mention Max over there. He's been talking to me for quite a while now about starting his own YouTube channel. I don't know why. He's fucking mental. Why do you want to do this?
I don't know.
So,
all that title of biggest British YouTuber.
If you fucking surpassed me in subs like within the first month, I would actually like close down my channel.
I'm getting all of the rec players that I can just to say, look, just make a YouTube account, subscribe, don't have to watch a video, it's fine.
Like challenge
if you legit like surpassed me within the first year, I would actually like terminate my channel.
No, I'm not having you make that bet. That's not a bet.
Okay, I would threaten to.
I will throw down a gauntlet for you though. This is why this jersey is up here.
Okay.
The Dallas Stars one.
Which is
Dallas Stars are hosting the 2020 outdoor game.
They are Winter Classic.
Yes. Would there be a chance that we do a podcast, blogcast kind of thing if we look into that?
What do you mean, like going out there and doing a podcast out there?
Yeah.
I mean, if they would have us, fuck yeah.
Well, they don't even need to have us. We'll find a way. We'll go to the tailgate parties that are outside.
Crowdfunding.
Crowdfunding, exactly.
I mean, if the fucking EIHL teams could do it, why can't I?
Exactly.
Save Odd Man Rush's channel.
Exactly. I want to see. I want to go to an outdoor game anyway. I want to go to an NHL game anyway.
Yeah.
And I think the fact that it's in Dallas, it's not that difficult to get to, and it's just going to be. I think it's going to be a good one. Obviously, we don't know who they're playing yet, but I want to throw it out there.
It's been rumoured that the New York Rangers are playing. If so, like even more, like let's get on it. I'd love that.
If it's the Rangers, then you've kind of got
yeah. I might have to go. So Max is planning on setting up his YouTube channel, which do you want to just like talk a little bit about it, like what your plans for the channel? Because you've told me, but I would very much say like I want you guys to definitely look at his channel. I'm going to be doing some videos with him hopefully in the near future. just to kick him off and get him started. So some of you idiots that watch my shit can go watch his shit as well. So yeah, there you go. I'm not self-deprecating at all, am I?
No. So me and Oddman have been talking for the past, I think it's like 4 or 5 months now, that we've kind of been like throwing this idea around, or I've been throwing this idea around, and that's why I kind of a bit more on his back about getting up to Nottingham and kind of setting some things up. Not only the fact that he's got Chris has got to go in goalie kit, and Hayden Oddman take a shot.
I am absolutely doing that.
Yeah, exactly. So
slap shot right in your dick.
Gotta find it first. So my channel. Hey, you've been slamming me. So yeah, my channel. I have a exponential love for hockey jerseys, NHL, Elite League, European, even Rec, the Sunday League ones, because even though those can be quite fun. And I have a very large collection. I think I definitely have over 40. I have nearly 50 jerseys, all from different teams. Some which are just mine. And I'm hoping to put a channel together that kind of explains the jerseys, goes into their history, their details, who played in them. I've been looking at some collaboration things where we'd have a video where we'd do like some sort of like funky challenges and stuff where like who wore it best. So for Calgary, Iginla, amongst other players like Johnny Gaudreau and all that sort of stuff, more recent players. And for Stars, obviously Mike Madonna.
As long as you don't get me to do any of those Fortnite dances, I'm all right. I can floss though. I'm pretty good.
I can floss poorly, yeah.
So yeah, we'll give you more details as they come in. We're still talking about stuff. Essentially, think of like the show Hoarders, but with hockey stuff, and that's Max. So yeah.
Yeah.
So
because it might stretch further than just jerseys. I've got pucks and all sorts of memorabilia.
He's a big sucker for like hockey collectibles, and like if I had the money to do it, I definitely would be on that train. Absolutely, like I love that stuff. I love hockey collectibles, especially as somebody, and I always think that like you guys should definitely go, like once it is set up, definitely go and support Max, because like he actually plays hockey. I've never played hockey. I sit on my arse and talk about it, and if I've done this well from that, like. Go and support somebody that actually knows what he's fucking talking about for once.
if it's gonna start off as jerseys, it's gonna start off as it, but it, like you said about your you not doing as much Elite League because a lot of your fans and followers are more interested in the NHL stuff.
Yeah.
If people are more interested in me talking about my hockey escapades and what happens and what goes on in games and stuff and that, then I'm more than happy to do videos on that sort of thing. I will
Funny
have to
hockey
be a
stories
bit
would be great
because other people involved. It's other, there's my teammates and stuff, and there'll be certain things that stay in the locker room, like there's certain talk and stuff.
Of course.
That's their confidential stuff.
Of course.
But yeah, I can quite happily talk about my hockey playing and stuff.
Yeah, I'd be interested to hear about it because, to be honest, I don't know a huge amount about it, and that might be a good way for me to hear about it. So,
cool.
Yeah, so I think we'll end the stream there. Chris has just been sitting there quietly like a good boy for the last.
No, I was just kind of thinking because I mean, similar to Max talking about his behind
Are you going to upload
scenes
some
from
Sim Golf episodes? Oh please!
No.
I've been craving them, Chris. I've been craving them. I've been having to watch them on repeat.
To be fair, I have watched a few of them and they were alright.
I have.
I will give you that. I have actually watched them and they were pretty good.
I need to find the time to do the next ones.
Oh, tell me about it.
No, I was thinking just Max randomly not randomly talking about his behind the scenes from a player's point of view. If people are interested in a behind the scenes from a media point of view,
that. I want
and
to know.
all the team sheet collection I have to do beforehand and the setting up and everything beforehand, then I'm happy to do that.
I think you should. I absolutely think you should.
I say that's the side of things that I'd love to. Like I said earlier on this stream, I've done it once, and I'd love to do it again as a commentator. I had so much fun on that stream.
Yeah,
I would link to it, and I've sent it to Oddman before, but they've dubbed over the the commentary, which I was expertly putting on with the other people in the booth, and they've dubbed it over with music.
I mean, if you want to hear some
2.5 hours.
expert commentary, you just got to listen to my commentary for the Nottingham Lions. I thought that was like.
Yeah, I missed out on that.
Mike Emmerich, eat your heart out, son.
Oh, it's on his blog from the Lions game that he came to last year. Towards the end, there's a bit. Or did you take it out because you didn't think it was good enough? I can't remember.
No, I left it up. It's in my liked videos, I believe. I just remember looking at you being like, "Why are you making me do this? Like, I don't know any of the players."
It's because it's what you came up here. You came all the way to do it. That's why.
And I had a lovely time. I actually got to see behind the scenes of the National Ice Centre, which I wasn't expecting.
An interesting building.
So yeah, I think we've gone 2 hours now. You've heard enough of us chatting shit. So thank you for watching the 17th episode of the Icing on the Skate podcast. If you guys haven't watched all of it, or you want to go back and watch more, it will be available to watch on the channel, so don't worry about that. I will be scheduling within the next few days my live chat for the All-Star Game Skills Competition, which is taking place on Friday, for me Saturday morning at 2 AM. It's going to be a long one, folks, but I'm looking forward to it. A lot of you guys seem interested in it, so I'm happy to do it. In terms of videos going out this week, I may have 1 or 2. I'm still writing stuff and recording and editing stuff. The constant slog, eh, lads? Yeah.
Yeah, that YouTube life.
Yeah, that YouTube life. For that 2 pence that I get for each of those videos. So yeah, thank you very much for watching, guys. I hope you have enjoyed the stream. Please feel free to like, subscribe, share, watch some of my other videos. Thank you very much to Chris and Max for coming. But for now,
no worries.
Goodbye.